The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us with our webinar today, the 5 of the biggest takeaways in paid search marketing this year and what that means for SEOs. We're joined today with Searchmetrics. And I have 2 speakers on the line. So today we have a guest host, Jordan Koene from Searchmetrics. He's the Vice President and Chief Evangelist. Jordan previously came from eBay, where he led the SEO team. And secondly, we have Larry here. Larry is our lead commentator today. He's the founder and CTO of WordStream. He's been nominated the Most Influential PPC Expert 3 years running. Great job, Larry. So without further ado, I'm going to toss it over to Larry, and we do have some poll questions for our listeners on the line today. Great, so we would love to understand, what is your experience level with PPC? Are you a beginner, you intermediate, advanced, or do you deem yourself as an expert? Just want to get a kind of a standard benchmark of who's on the line. Great, so it looks like 50% of our audience is beginners, guys, so I think that's great, and I will now toss it over to Jordan and Larry to run us through this webinar today.
Thanks, Noelle, and thank you, Jordan, for joining us today. WordStreamers and Searchmetrics friends, we have a really interesting topic for you guys today. Normally, like a WordStream webinar, it's very, very focused on paid search and how to do great in paid search. But these days it's becoming much more interdisciplinary, cross-functional in terms of like it's different marketing channels are becoming more and more increasingly integrated. And I recently met with some friends at Searchmetrics at a conference earlier this year, and we thought, wouldn't it be so cool if we could do kind of a joint webinar with the leading provider of enterprise SEO solutions, so that where we could talk about the big changes that are happening in paid search, but also quantifying and explaining what impact those huge changes in paid search are also having on organic search. And so Jordan, he's a really smart guy. He's like brilliant SEO strategist. Been in the industry for many years. He was kind enough to join us on this call today. Jordan, thanks so much for being here. So I think he may be on mute, but let's
Sorry about that.
Did you want to say anything here?
Yeah, just thank you for having us, and looking forward to the conversation. I think we'll find a lot of surprising similarities behind the tactics and behaviors of paid search and natural search.
All right. So guys, the first big change that I want to talk about today has to do with sort of this unfortunate trend of price and inventory headwinds in paid search. So, if you listen in on any of the Google conference calls, what they'll tell you is that cost per click is declining by 4 or 5% or 6% this quarter. There's definitely truth to that. The cost per click is declining overall when you think about like the entire Google network, which contains like many different countries, like emerging markets and such. And also many different types of clicks emanating from different types of devices in terms of like desktop, mobile, and tablet, each of which have kind of different prices because there are different auctions. But when you just look at the trend for paid search prices in established markets such as the United States or Canada or New York or something like this, what you'll find is that if you segment those prices by device type, desktop, mobile, and tablet, unfortunately those prices aren't falling by 5 or 6 or 7% every quarter. They're actually increasing, at a pretty brisk pace. And so the reason why this matters, marketers, is because for every increase in cost per click price, for those keywords, that's a one penny for every increase in 1 penny in the cost per click price. That's a 1 penny decrease in return on investment for your ad spend. So obviously we want to keep an eye on that. What about Bing? So like, if Google AdWords is so expensive, are there any bargains to be had on Bing? And unfortunately, it's kind of a similar story, like especially in very competitive verticals such as lawyers or these local verticals like repairs and plumbers and mesothelioma. Like they're extremely expensive cost per clicks, $50 or $100, and that is kind of a long-term trend that we've been seeing. Any thoughts before we move on, Jordan, on sort of these high cost per clicks in paid search?
Yeah, I mean, I think the unique aspect to take from this is the reality that you have to have this multi-channel approach. If costs are going up, especially for these very targeted niches, how can these niche keywords that you want to attract, how can you make more impact from an SEO perspective, or how can you leverage maybe other tactics, many of which we'll probably talk about later in this webinar, to make this aggregate cost, your aggregate marketing costs, reduce over time. But the reality is that, I mean, there's a limited amount of share in inventory, and so this creates this higher demand, and this happens both in SEO and in paid search. Although you're not paying for the clicks in SEO, it's just that the competition for the top spots becomes more aggressive.
I'm glad that you brought up this notion of of search inventories, which affects both paid and organic search. Google was saying in their calls that overall the search volumes are going up every quarter. But what if you were only to look at like an established market such as New York or Canada or whatever? And so what you would find if you did that analysis, and this was done by ComScore here, the amount of time spent on desktop is in decline. So people are actually spending much more time in mobile than on desktop. And in fact, on mobile, people are spending much more time within mobile apps than versus the mobile web. And so I think the reason why this matters is that the apps are actually stealing searches from desktop searches, meaning like sessions that used to start off with like Japanese restaurant or something like that on Google are, consumers are going straight to an app like Yelp or something like that, or TripAdvisor, and looking up, places to go to rather than searching for these things. And so it's not just a matter of stolen searches from apps. The mobile web itself, the mobile search results page, has far fewer spots, both on the paid and organic listings. I mean, look at this on the right side. Search for dishwasher had, maybe 12 sponsored spots and maybe 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 organic spots. And now that's been reduced to, on the left side here, where 1 or 2 paid spots and maybe 5 or 6 organic listings. So substantially fewer spots on both organic and paid search, which is kind of a big deal because that's more than half of the searches that are happening this year. And so before moving on, Jordan, any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of unique situations that we've encountered, right? You mentioned earlier the use of apps, and one of the interesting use cases that we've looked at over the last 3 to 4 years is Yelp, and how Yelp has actually seen a continuous decline in what we call search visibility, in essence, how visible they are in organic search. But the reality is that much of the behavior that used to happen in Google to find, say, a restaurant or some local destination is now happening within the Yelp app. And this is a transformative behavior that really is affecting Google and the search landscape as a whole. It's one of the reasons why we do hear Google and Apple talk a lot about app indexing, which is something that we'll probably talk more about later on in the webinar. But this is a critical transition that's happening in the search landscape, which means from your own mobile perspective and your own mobile priorities, click-through rate is the most important factor to really take into account, because there's a limited amount of inventory. And if you're not capturing the expected click-through rates for that limited amount of inventory, you probably need to change your ads. You probably need to change your strategy. around mobile, and this applies to both your paid and your natural search tactics.
Of course. Back to paid for a second here. Basically, what I'm saying here is that the cost per clicks are relatively high. The search volume, while not in decline, is not necessarily. It's not growing at like double digits as it was, in the 90s and 2000s, and so like the early part of last decade, and so the volume is more or less, growing at a slower clip. So what does this mean for marketers? Because I think you would prefer to have more for less, right? More searches available to buy at a lower cost. But what's happening is the opposite. Like the number of searches is more or less similar, and the prices are going up. And so I think that the only way that you can win in such a competitive environment in 2015 and beyond has to do with being much more picky in terms of your keyword selection, in terms of your ad targeting, so that you're targeting fewer clicks, fewer paid clicks. Even though that they're more expensive than before, the quality of those clicks have to be much higher in terms of the return on investment. So how the heck can you do that? Well, Google is actually rolling out new targeting options every single week, it seems. So RLSA, bid modifiers, demographic targeting. Let's talk about some of these here. So Bing Ads, for example, it has a really interesting idea where rather than just buying targeting a keyword, you can target not only the keyword but also demographics associated with the individual who is conducting that search. So you can, raise and lower your bids based on their age or their gender or their parental status or other, like their income. And so, here's where understanding your target market has a huge value, because you can target the people who actually fall into your target market as opposed to people who have no ability to purchase your products and services. And so another idea that's really clever, available in Google, has to do with the remarketing lists for search ads. So here's where you can customize your search ads and target only the keyword searches to people who have also recently visited your site. So, you could be targeting a very, very expensive keyword, but, knowing that that person visited your site in the last week. And so the combination of those two signals, like recency plus, commercial intent from the keyword search, and brand familiarity from having visited your site recently, will, on average, double the click-through rate, which, will reduce the cost per click because of the higher quality scores. So this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, being more picky and trying to get higher quality, even if it means a lower quantity. And in terms of any thoughts on this, or what are you seeing on the organic side, Jordan?
I mean, where we've seen a lot of change in this particular aspect is really the ability to amplify the success of your organic search. The reality is that if you are being very targeted with your ads and you're paying a lot of money for those ads, you have to have a clear path, a clear strategy all the way to the expected outcome, whether it's a lead or a conversion. And so the expectation here is that if you're doing such a great job in targeting your ads, you need to make sure that the content that you also have for SEO is reflective of that, and that there's kind of like a holistic view on that content and that topic, so that you can actually get the user to convert. Because like anything, there's going to be a multi-touch aspect to this advertising and this marketing, and SEO has to be integrated into that process.
Of course. In terms of the growth, so I'm suggesting that you be more picky and buy fewer clicks that are worth more. That's not bad, but I think your manager might prefer that you not only got fewer clicks, but also got more clicks, because they want to grow their business next year, right? And so the question is a reasonable question: how do you scale pay-per-click marketing? Where does the growth come from if inventory is constrained and prices are high? And I think the answer has to do with going to where people spend time on the internet. So People spend 95% of the time online is spent consuming content. So that's like reading your emails, browsing news sites, social media, etc. So a tremendous amount of time spent doing stuff, consuming content, and only 5% of people's time on actual searching for things on Google. And so I think what you need to do here is think about your ad budget, holistically. Like, search is definitely, king in terms of, like, that's where the highest commercial intent is, and there's tremendously high conversion rates associated with search because of the high commercial intent, but again, very competitive, so the idea is to diversify, to display advertising as well, like to target the sites that people visit when they're not searching, here's just some data that we've collected internally from WordStream in terms of the search versus display. And what I can tell you is that Google search generally has a much higher conversion rate than display ads, but display isn't not anything to sneer at either. Like, in terms of, especially if you're using targeting options like remarketing, that's very, very powerful, because they know that you have certain interests in certain products, and so they can generally get a decent conversion rate, the cost per clicks are substantially lower on display than search, because they're unconstrained in terms of their inventory. Like, there's like billions of page views happening on Facebook and on the internet every day. And so oftentimes you can actually get to a situation where the display CPAs are competitive with search, and so I think that's where you can leverage. You can get a lot of leverage for growth if you're looking to boost your numbers. One of the really interesting things about display remarketing is that that's when this notion of chasing people around the internet with your ads after they visit your site. The more times that they see the ad, the less likely they are to click on it, but those who do click on the ads are almost twice as likely to convert. It's almost like you've shown them the ad like 10 times. You're kind of like nagging them or reminding them aggressively to finish whatever you were hoping for them to do, and it kind of wears them down, and they finally find the time to do that, and that's very valuable from like a lead generation or, say, online sales perspective. Any thoughts about any of these thoughts?
I'd love to just chime in. Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing about this concept, not only just about remarketing, but about identifying new ways or new sources to gain traffic, is you really have to understand the core principles that are working in SEO and in paid search. Because if your remarketing or your display strategy isn't reflecting where you're succeeding in SEO or paid search, it's very likely that you will not see the conversions that Larry just showed there. And we see this all the time. We have a client who's a large automotive website, and the majority, the lion's share of their SEO traffic really goes to their parts division, their parts business. But all of their display and paid search content is really focused on the used car or actually selling the cars. So there's a real big disconnect in terms of the expected behavior and activity that's happening in SEO and the behaviors and activities that are happening in their paid channels. And I think that is something that oftentimes marketers completely forget, and it's an important piece to making sure that you're effectively spending these dollars to generate the revenue that your company's looking for.
Awesome. And then, of course, just a reminder, people, this notion of remarketing only works if you have an audience of website visitors to remarket to, like a cookie pool of like 1,000 or more individuals that are hitting your site every, couple days or something like this. So one of the cheapest, lowest cost ways to do that is definitely through SEO. So like blogging, that kind of thing, to get people to casually read about your products and services, and then remarketing them with specific offers after the fact. I think that's a pretty good 1-2 strategy. All right, so we're on to our next trend here, moving along, having to do with something called the rise of identity-based pay-per-click marketing. So what the heck is this all about? Well, so I've been doing internet advertising for over 10 years now, unbelievable, but basically when I got started like many years ago, ads were just awful. Like you had to target them based on a website. You would say something like, oh, I'm selling a business product, so I'm going to buy banner ads on inkmagazine.com or something like that. And that was kind of interesting, but not very targeted. And so Google invented things like keyword targeting. So that's where you could target your display ads to specific articles that were on topic related to your product. I thought that was kind of interesting, but still not perfect. In the last 5 years, they've rolled out more granular display ad targeting options such as remarketing and interest and market segment-based targeting. So that's where Google kind of figures out what you're interested in based on your browsing history and your search history, and then targets you based on those that data. But in all of the above cases, you have really no idea who you're targeting. It's you think you're targeting somebody, but you don't know for sure. And so this has just recently changed, kind of in the last year, where Facebook and Twitter and hopefully Google in the very short time frame are allowing you to target ads to specific individuals by their emails or phone numbers. And so in Twitter, it's called tailored audience. That's where you just upload a list of emails or Twitter IDs. And in Facebook, it's called custom audiences. That's where you just do the same thing, upload your customer list or your prospect list in terms of the phone numbers and emails. And I think that's very interesting because it's a way more precise way of doing pay-per-click advertising. It feels a lot more like email marketing. We'll target specific individuals. Like I can actually target Jordan from Searchmetrics because I know your email, Jordan. So I can put that in there and try to target you with my WordStream ads. and what's so amazing about this, Jordan, is that it's very difficult for you to unsubscribe from them. It's whereas if I was targeting you with email and you're like, what the heck, this is Larry spamming me, I'm unsubscribing. It's hard to unsubscribe from these things. If I wanted to be really clever, I could target people who aren't in my list. Like maybe there's like 101 influencers that I want to target, and they haven't opted into my list. I could just upload their names and then target them with Facebook and Twitter ads, kind of unsolicited, if you will. And so I don't have to worry about unsubscribes. So all this, it's very interesting. What I call people-based PPC marketing, kind of improving on all of the shortcomings of email marketing. And the really interesting thing here is that Google is rumored to be offering some kind of a email-based targeting like in the near future. This is a journal. So I think that'll be very interesting. I hope that they roll out something this year. And so I just wanted to give you an example of how the heck could you use identity-based marketing to grow your business. Go ahead.
And Larry, one of the questions that we've had come in is this concept of building out lists. And as you think about building out lists from a paid perspective to really know what people to target, one of the questions is really around boomers and how do you maybe use paid channels to target those areas? Do you have any suggestions on what channels might be the best to target boomers and generate a list to people to remarket through paid channels? Sure.
Both Facebook and Google Display Network and even search ads on Google have this notion of age targeting. So you can target people who fall in within a specific range. So, say you're looking for someone 65 and older, basically what you would do is you would set a bid modifier, Jordan. So you could set like your bid multiplier to be 0% or 1%, for the demographics that don't meet your age requirements, and then you could set like 200% boost to the searchers or display ad consumers that fall into that desired age range. So I think that would be a really, it's called it's demographic bidding options on Facebook, Twitter, and Google AdWords. And so. So just moving along here, I wanted to give you an example of how I personally use this identity-based marketing, PPC marketing, in terms of trying to get content to go viral. So here's a true story from last September. I wrote a kind of silly little article on my blog about Google Plus shelving Gmail integration. You used to have to create a Google Plus account while you were creating a Gmail account, and you know, for whatever reason, I created lots of Gmail accounts. Not worth going into, but basically, I know you do too, Jordan. I know you do.
Yeah. I have way too many of them.
I just happened to notice that it didn't ask me to link to a Google Plus account, and so I blogged about it. But unfortunately, it was a Friday afternoon, and you know, I tried tweeting it on my Twitter, and I shared it on my Google Plus, but it didn't really get a lot of attention because, like, you know, it was late in the day. So what I did was I just I have this list of influential people, like I call it industry influencers. So it's like 1,660 people who write for like TechCrunch or VentureBeat or, like, you know, the most search engine land, like those types of writers. And so I have this list of writers, and I promoted the post on social to those influencers. Within you know, 2 hours, the story shows up on Marketing Land. See, it's at the bottom here. It says, "With a change brought to our attention today by Larry Kim of the WordStream blog and confirmed by Google," blah, blah, blah. So it's basically Martin Beck wrote up this story thanks to my promoted tweet, and you know, he gave me a link. That's a valuable thing for SEOs to get links to your content, all right? And within, you know, that was Friday, and then by Saturday, you know, it was in a bunch of other sites like VentureBeat, Register, and by Monday, I had over 500 placements in all of the biggest, you know, high-value SEO targets, you know, Business Insider, Fast Company, etc., talking about this big development that I had discovered. So I think the key takeaway in terms of a PPC, paid search perspective has to do with, like, you know, if you know who you are trying to target specifically, well, then target them specifically. You need influential people to make your content go viral, so target influential people explicitly. It's like it also, you know, it's just, any thoughts on this, Jordan? This notion?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great concept, because anybody who's ever worked on SEO fully understands that one of the key indicators is links. And you know, in Larry's example here, he was able to acquire links through that. We call that link building or link development or whatever choice of words you want. Really, it's all about gaining this exposure and placement on other websites in order to lift the credibility of your content. And this is one of the best sources of doing that, because link building in the past was this kind of and I'm sure, Larry, you've experienced this. It was this very aggressive email-based tactic or requester type-based approach, where people were sending you these spammy emails saying, "Hey, please link to my content. I wrote this article about PPC," and it really is. It was very ineffective, or it really generated low-quality link sources. But in this particular organic, holistic, very effective approach, you're using paid sources to attract attention from the people who are interested in your content. It's a real great amplifier and can generate a lot of increased awareness, not only to the content itself, but really through distribution into other channels.
Yeah, tremendously valuable and tremendously effective too. I spent a total of $50 on that little campaign. It took me 10 minutes to execute, because I already had the audience built out. Obviously, it took me like a week to build up the audience, but it's reusable. And so, you know, $50, 10 minutes, and you get quite a nice haul in terms of like 100,000 visitors to that blog content, which I then tagged, and then I can remarket to, and then you know, 500 high-value press pickups and links. That's going to help my site rank on keywords in the future.
So one of the questions we had One of the questions we had from a panelist was how this can be utilized by consultants or consulting services. This is a tactic or a opportunity for your services to really amplify the impact of your work, because this goes into more than just a paid campaign. This now goes into, hey, how does this affect my SEO? I think that's one of the great ways that the consultants can use this kind of information.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about layering. So layering, what that says is like, you know, you say you have a pile of users, like a huge list of like WordStream actually has a list of, I don't know, like 600,000 emails. That's a big list. I don't want to remarket to all 600,000. I only want to market to those 600,000 who also have some other desirable demographic, such as some behavior, like people who have recently purchased business marketing services. So this is an actual audience in Facebook where I can, you know, I can target people who bought other business marketing services because people who purchased business marketing services in the past are more likely to buy other business marketing services from companies like WordStream. And so, you know, there's 2,500 of these different categories of purchases, and you can kind of do a combination of those. So you take the lists that you have and then run them against these certain behaviors and target the subset of the people who match both criteria. I think that's very, very interesting because, again, in PPC world, the purpose is to be very picky, and you're not supposed to, you know, you have to pay money for this stuff. So like you want to make sure that, you know, when you do show these ads, that you're showing them to the right people. You know, so it's kind of like I think this is printing money basically. Any thoughts, Jordan?
Well, I mean, one of the questions we actually have from one of the attendees is around promoted tweets and targeting your influencers through promoted tweets, and I'm assuming they have something similar to this in Twitter as well.
Yeah, in Facebook and Twitter, yes, they have. You can. Well, it's basically this idea. You just have to find out who the people you want to market to are, and find out their Twitter or Facebook IDs, and upload them.
Gotcha. Perfect. Yeah, I think that answers the question on that topic. And then I think from just a general SEO perspective on search, the reality is that in order for SEO content to be successful, you have to have social influence. In fact, in our recent study, Ranking Factors, which is looking at 36 different factors in search and what it really is driving success in natural search, social activities are one of the most critical aspects of rankings, and the top 10 positions have double the activities than the remaining 30 positions. And it really doesn't matter if you do it through targeting or through advertising, or if it happens organically. That activity is critical to having some success and performance in organic search. And I think we're going to talk more about that as we go into more of these examples.
Yeah, sometimes your content marketing and SEO efforts are you've created this great asset, but it just needs a little push to get the ball rolling, kind of like gravity. You know, it needs an object that needs a little push to start rolling, and then it starts rolling down the hill. Like I think you know, paid promotion is a great way to act as either a catalyst or an accelerant to those you know, content marketing efforts. So we're talking about our next trend here has to do with mobile PPC hacks. So kind of a big deal. If you haven't noticed, you know, half of searches, or actually more than half of searches, are actually happening on mobile devices. And one of the biggest changes has to do with this notion of click-to-call ad extensions, because it dramatically increases the value of the clicks that you're buying for, or the calls, because, you know, back in the desktop days, back when I was young and I was, you know, searching on desktops, I would, you know, search on these ads, click on the ads, visit a web page, and maybe like there's a 3% chance that I actually fill out the landing page and the business captures the lead. So that's pretty terrible. 97% of the time, people you know, don't capture the information that they want to capture. The mobile, it's very, very interesting because there's no leaky landing page. You've eliminated that whole stage of the funnel. People will see the ad, there's a button that says call, and then once they call your business, you have them on the phone, and so you can talk to them and you can take their order. So that's much more valuable than just an anonymous click to a website. And so in AdWords, there's all these call-only campaigns where you're basically changing it from pay-per-click to pay-per-lead, and you can only pay when people call, and there's ways to force people to always call you, even if they click on the headline, it'll go straight to your phone. And guys, it's not just about the call extensions. There's like dozens of other really beautiful mobile ad extensions and formats that just kind of really are very compelling. Like this one here has to do with Google Shopping, and look how it basically gives you product reviews and product images, and also even tells you whether or not the product is in stock at a nearby store. I think that's very valuable, because by the time you then pay for the click, the shopper already has kind of an idea of what the price and what the ratings are for this product, and so therefore they're more likely to convert, as opposed to just like a text ad that says oh, get a camera, and then they click on this link, and then it's oh, that's way out of my price range, or this doesn't have the features and reviews that I need, that kind of thing. So by kind of pushing all this kind of product metadata higher a funnel before paying for the click, I think that's very valuable. There's so many other new formats like car buying or mortgages or credit cards, where you can kind of view image carousels and get very powerful, click to call and get direction, call to actions, which are very relevant for mobile. It's my view here is that the mobile search is absolutely more valuable in general to most businesses than desktop clicks, for the reasons that I've been talking about. Jordan, what are your thoughts on this matter?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting one. That kind of there's a lot of activity going on in both paid and in natural search. So many of you on the phone may be aware of schema and leveraging that markup to denote certain data that's on the page to Google search. And the reality is that the utilization of schema is an option from the webmaster side in terms of putting that markup on your page, but really from Google and Google search side just continues to amplify. And this goes well beyond just showing the 3-star rating. It's going into all the examples that Larry showed are now becoming reality inside of natural search. And so again, we have limited inventory. You have literally just a few spots above the fold in mobile. The more data and the more real estate you can cover with different ways for users to click or engage become a big factor in your click-through rate and the success of your mobile SEO and paid search strategy. And so I think that if you're not thinking about how you're integrating these data points from a paid or an SEO standpoint, you're really missing the whole point of how mobile is becoming incredibly targeted, incredibly isolated, and really a somewhat difficult landscape to compete and win at. One
positive thing to add to this, guys, from a paid search perspective is, for strange reasons, the mobile cost per clicks are less than the same keyword search on desktop. And I think the reason is because advertisers, it takes them a little while to learn about new technologies and adopt new features and functions, and so there are fewer advertisers competing on mobile than on desktop for the moment. I think they're going to smarten up, but for now there's a sale going on. Mobile clicks costing less than desktop clicks, despite being more valuable. So that could be a nice way to get some ROI this year. But if anyone asks you, just keep saying, "Oh, stupid mobile, they're worthless." Don't ruin it for everyone. Just kidding. Okay.
I mean, that would be a big miss. I mean, the crazy thing is there's so much news around mobile. I mean, obviously in the beginning of the year we had mobile get-in. Google made a lot of hoopla around that. But right now the biggest thing we're actually seeing, and I think this is going to impact everything from an advertising standpoint, whether it's paid or otherwise, is really the inclusion of apps and how apps are going to become more a part of the search experience, whether it be paid or organic. I mean, both Google and Apple are going after this race on figuring out what to do with app content, how to integrate it, and I would expect people to be very people should be very alert. Marketers should be very alert to these concepts, because there are going to be a lot of changes around that, whether it's a new targeting capability in paid or ability to click right into apps through natural search. It's bound to happen.
Awesome. So we're talking about our fourth trend here has to do with Google taking away all of our toys. So what does this mean? It means that Google has created AdWords that has a ton of very, very powerful granular features like keyword targeting, where you specify very, very specific keywords, but they are slowly going away, or maybe not so slowly. Even things like device targeting was removed back a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and so a lot of the features and functions that search marketers have relied on historically, like keyword selection, being able to create your own site links, etc., they're being kind of either replaced or supplemented with kind of ways of doing the same thing or better automatically. So, for example, Google, you can create site links for your ads automatically if you don't have them, like they do for SEO. And there's a technology called dynamic search ads, where if you just if you just point them to your page, Google will figure out what keywords to bid on for you based on crawling the site organically. And so I think the question then arises in terms of, like, if you're a PPC marketer, like, well, all these things that I used to spend all my time on are going away. What should I be focusing on? In terms of my time and energy, and the answer, I think, has to do with what I call donkeys versus unicorns. So what the heck does that mean? It means you should try to be remarkable rather than average in terms of the ad copy that you're creating. For example, here's just some data that we've published that shows, like, the average advertiser is this orange curve that gets like a certain click-through rate for any given ad position. The top 15% of advertisers gets 2 times better than the average. The top 5% of advertisers gets 3 times the expected average click-through rates, and the top 1% of advertisers gets 6 times better performance out of their ads than the average advertiser. So there's huge leverage, 6 times leverage, in trying to be remarkable. And how can you be remarkable? I just wanted to give you an example. Like, you see this all the time on the search results page. These ads are all donkeys. So I just did a search for divorce lawyers. Just notice how every single ad here is just so unimaginative, and they've all come up with the same ad. Compare that to, I call this an AdWords jackpot, because it's like, boom, I hit the jackpot. All these other idiots have the same ad, and it's an opportunity for me as an advertiser to be differentiated with my messaging. How differentiated? Well, here's an example of an actual ad unicorn, which gets 6 times higher click-through rate than all the others. It's very emotionally charged, and leverages these emotional triggers. Who's your husband with? Is he sleeping with her right now? Get revenge, and a smile on your face. Whoa! Of course, you're going to click on this.
This is incredibly relevant considering the recent Ashley Madison database leak. So, I mean, I think this is a very fitting example.
Right. So I was saying, you want to be remarkable. You want to have creative. You don't spend time on repetitive, mindless tasks. Spend time on the marketing aspects of pay-per-click marketing. So ad copy optimization, landing page optimization. Like, the top 10% of landing pages gets 3 to 5 times higher conversion rates than the rest of the average of landing pages. So it's a pretty big deal in terms of, like, focusing on things that matter as opposed to things that matter marginally. Any thoughts on this notion? Basically, we're talking about the quality here. I'm sure that's very relevant for SEO. Jordan, any thoughts?
Absolutely, and there's really just like 2 kind of core topics that really transition very nicely into this paid aspect. The first one is really around this concept of topics, and then the second is really around content quality and kind of Google's evolution on content quality. So the first one on topics, again, just like paid activities that are very repetitive, Google is doing the same thing in organic search, in the sense that what we used to do as SEOs is we'd create this giant list of priority keywords. Then we'd go and build content against this list of keywords, and we'd hope that that one page ranked for that one keyword. Well, that's been completely blown up. I mean, the real strategy nowadays is understanding core topics and then building remarkable content around those core topics. And it's really it's a very challenging practice, because it's very hard, first and foremost, to semantically collect these topics and understand what a topic is. And then it's even more difficult to make that remarkable content stand out against all the other options that Google has. But we've been showing an example here now for the last couple of years. It's this website called The Kitchen. It's kind of like a high-end recipe cooking type website. And they have a page that essentially ranks for like 469 different keywords in the top 10 positions. And if you look at the page that's been around the longest, the topic is how to boil an egg. If you look at the page that's been around the longest, it's an eHow article that in the history of that whole page has only ranked for one keyword in the top 10 positions. And again, it's that old tactic of focusing on one keyword versus this new tactic on building a holistic piece of content that can target a whole topic. And so that's the first piece. The second piece is around content quality. And very quickly, I mean, it's no surprise, content quality is Google's #1 objective. They want to understand what good content is. And the way they've been doing this in the SEO world is with this algorithm updates and changes over the last 4.5 or 5 years called Panda. And Panda specifically focuses on content quality. And it's the one evolution of Google's algorithm that's had the most change out of all the different things that they do. That's the one that they focus on the most. And it's because it's taking into account this idea of content and understanding what is good content versus bad content. And so there's a lot of different tactics and activities that you need to do to make your content great. But the most important part here to take into account is understand the fact that that's Google's main mission, is to figure out what is great content, and understand it from the user's point of view, understand it from its structural point of view. That's really the goal, and I think that it transcends very nicely into this topic around content quality and how to leverage it and focus on it. Great.
I just wanted to push through here. We're kind of low on time here. The final ideas has to do with like trying out new features and functions. So you know, first mover advantage. You know, there's thousands of new features every year. So like, you know, try out new ones like the Gmail ads or YouTube ads. YouTube ads are actually very interesting for SEO perspectives in that. What you can do is you can pay to promote the YouTube assets, content assets that you've already produced to show up as kind of trailers onto other YouTube videos. And so that's very interesting because it'll drive the engagement, so like the page views and the likes, the thumbs up and subscribers that are used to then subsequently rank that content on an SEO like organic search basis. I just got to push through this because we're out of time. This last one has to do with content remarketing, and it's just you know, summarizing kind of what we're talking about here. You know, you still need to create content for you know, organic stuff, but you can share this on social, and then dramatically increase the visibility of that piece of content by promoting it. You know, and then tagging the audience of people who then consume that content, and then filtering that audience based on certain demographic or behavioral kind of characteristics that you're interested in, and then advertising the heck out of those people using display, remarketing, and social retargeting, you know, pushing them to certain promotional offers that you want them to sign up for. This is kind of like the way I would be printing money here, and it's just totally, you know, alongside of your organic efforts. And I think for this to work really well, you really need to have a kind of cross-functional integration of your teams in terms of the people who are doing the social, the content, the SEO, and the PPC marketing. They should at least, kind of be aware of what the others are doing so that they can work together and be even more successful. I think these were some very specific tactics, but I don't think we have time for that. Any final thoughts about this notion of cross-functional SEO, PPC stuff, Jordan?
Well, I mean, I think these two things really, they have to play nice with one another. It goes into this kind of entire concept of integrated marketing to some extent at a very high level, but at a very tactical, specific level, the ability for you to leverage your organic content and your PPC content to amplify that organic content is really one of the fundamentals of this retargeting, remarketing concepts that we've been going over. And oftentimes it's incredibly overlooked, and the harder part is measuring that impact. But the reality is that in order for you to for all the tide to rise on these strategies, you really have to be thinking about where is my most successful content in SEO, and then how can I bring that back into my paid activities to drive it even more? Or if I have a piece of content that isn't successful yet, how can I use amplification tactics to even accelerate it to my expected targets?
Great. And just summarizing everything we talked about today, guys, these are the 5 biggest trends in PPC that are happening right now. I won't read them out, but there they are, I think they are also having big impacts on the other side of the search engine result page on the organic SERPs as well. Any final thoughts, Jordan?
No, I think we can. We'll leave it at there. I think we have a few last housekeeping things before we close out the webinar, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, Noel, do we have any other polls, or should we just go straight to questions?
Yeah, so we do have some special offers available for our listeners today. I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. We are offering our listeners a free assessment of their WordStream or their AdWords account with our WordStream team, or a copy of the 2015 ranking factors study that Searchmetrics put together. I know, Jordan, you referenced that on the call earlier. If you would like to opt into one, both, or either, feel free to go ahead and do that now. And otherwise, I want to definitely take a moment and thank our speakers so much. We had a lot of great questions on the line. For everybody who's still listening, we will be sending the slides and the recordings of this session this afternoon. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Jordan.
Well, thanks, Jordan, and WordStreamers. If you're not familiar with Searchmetrics, I just want to say I happen to think it is the most fantastic product for enterprise-level SEO management, and definitely worth getting a try if that's important to your organization. So,
and thanks again for the opportunity, Larry, to participate in the webinar. For Searchmetrics listeners, I think this is a great opportunity for us who are very much heads down in the SEO world to kind of open our eyes to the paid side of the world. And I appreciated all the insights that you shared, Larry. And I think not only did it help our audience, but I think it goes to show the impact of these two things working together.
Noel, do we have any other questions from our audience today?
No, that's all, guys, for today. So thank you, everyone, for participating, and that's all we have. Happy Monday.
Have a good day. Bye.
Have a good day.